Alright, so hello everyone, and welcome back to Satisfactory. When we last left off, we were working on various parts that go into the neural quantum processor factory, which is this rubber, and there was some aluminum stuff before. But now I think we are just about done with all of that, which means I need to remember where we actually left that factory. So we have to go back to it and then start getting things actually built out. So let's see, it's probably over this way. So let's just go for a bit of a trap. There it is. It's down to the southwest corner. Okay, can I get on this train, which is currently heading the correct direction? Alright, so this is going to bring us all the way over this way. And it's probably going to turn off into the wrong way at some point, but we can ride it in the short term. It's also nice to just ride on a train and see that it is moving basically completely uninterrupted. So we can just get through here. So we're going to be turning south here. I don't know what this train we're riding is going to be doing. It might be going this way. Actually, it might be going down to this nitrogen source, because this is a nitrogen train. So that would be quite convenient. Alright, now this train stops. Just temporarily. It should get moving again instantaneously. There we go. That is quite nice. Okay, now we turn this way, and we are making serious progress here. Okay, I think we're stopping here because that train is going into something around here. So let's just continue to walk along normally. Just slide jump as far as we can go. If that train ever catches up to us, then we'll feel silly. But if that happens, we can just hop back onto it. There's the nitrogen source, so we're probably past where that train could ever be going. So we just keep on moving. And then we turn this way. And almost there. I believe it's this giant chunk of things over here. Right, and it's not quite set up correctly because we changed our mind on previously we were going to be importing crude oil and now we aren't. So we have rubber and plastic instead of all that. So most of these are set up and now we just have to get these in. So we get mergers all the way along. And these guys are filled, right? Yes, they are. That's very cool. So those just go in like that. Floor hole goes down to there. And I believe this is going to be taking like 1,000 plastic and rubber, which is a lot. But is still enough to fit on a single box, or a single train line. So we just get all of these guys connected up. And that should be fine. That should be fine as long as we just have a buffer chest for it to go down into. Alright, let's get rid of that. So we don't want to get rid of like the foundations or anything. Just these pipes. I guess some of the foundations are going to be hit anyways, but that's still probably faster than doing it all manually. Alright, so then those pipeline supports go out. And so do those. this comes down to ground level, which is there. And then let's fill in these random holes that I've wound up with, because we don't want to be dealing with those. Alright, and then this is going to just go into an industrial storage container, which will line up something like that, and then get filled. Alright, so that is that. Now, we need to probably do... Actually, did we wind up getting all of the things? So let's see. We've got quartz, rubber, deuterium, nitrogen, trigons, aluminum, and plastic. Okay, the plastic also isn't set up properly yet. Now, is there anything in my notes that isn't those things? There's water, copper, iron, and sulfur? What's sulfur doing in there? Okay. This is using the classic battery recipe for some reason. Oh, to make super state computers. Okay, that's fine, I guess. But we are going to need sulfur, which surely that pure node up there isn't being 100% used. And we can just divert some of that over and it should be fine. And then the copper and iron are there. And I think there was water as well, right? Yes, copper, iron, and water are here. Okay, so we need to get the sulfur then. I'm just assuming, right? These two are probably copper and iron belts. I'm pretty sure. Okay, we need so little sulfur. We need like 66.6. We could just drone it in. I'm pretty sure we have sulfur in. Oh, but all the sulfur in drones is going to nuclear stuff, which I don't want to mess with. Alright, yeah, let's just drop down and grab a belt for that sulfur. And hopefully there's enough power in this area that we don't have any problems. Alright, we are at ground level now. And so if we just head a little bit over this way, we should encounter a sulfur node. And it should be a used sulfur node, so we're not going to need to bring power or anything. We're just going to need to get the belt back over to here. So we just go across this. It'll either be on top of this or inside of it. I don't know which. I guess let's gain altitude. Okay, I see it there. Alright, so let's land. And, oh, this is hilariously slow for pure node. So we can accelerate you, get a smart splitter. That bit can be Mark 6. And we're going to say left overflow. It shouldn't matter at all. because we should have plenty of excess in both directions to keep them both fully saturated. But let's do this. Oh, we need to swap back to jetpack for this. Otherwise, we're gonna fall out of the sky. Okay, that foundation didn't get placed properly. There we go. Gotta double click when you're in zoop mode. And that apparently just snaps perfectly to this conveyor belt that we had. Alright, so you go over the edge. And then... do we just, like, bring this whole thing over up here rather than bringing it down and back up? I think we do. I think that's actually just mildly preferable. Yeah, originally I was gonna like send this down a giant elevator thing and then back up another giant elevator thing, but like this will also just be flatter and easier than dealing with the terrain. So let's do this. Just bring the foundation over and then do the belt next. Alright, so now we're over here, and we just keep on going. I think we ended up with a ton of excess water in this, like all these pipes here. I think we only need like one of them because we're not doing the rubber and plastic production on site, which was like the major contributor to that. Alright, so then we go around here. And this is going to build up somewhere in this general vicinity. So now let's get the belts going back. So first, we have a section of belt going that way to get the direction. And then we just drag these all the way across the whole sky bridge. It's kind of funny that this whole giant sky bridge is actually very, very low on the map relative to where I normally am. It seems so high up, except for the fact that there's a giant shadow on top of you at all times. Alright, so this just keeps going. And a little bit more. And a little bit more. Okay, that just barely doesn't snap together. So then we connect it up like that. Alright, now we can do slide jumping while on a belt, which makes you go insanely quick. Alright, so now we're back over to here. And we just need this to go... I want it to be kind of in with the rest of them. It doesn't have to be perfect. But something like this. Something like that should be fine. So then the belt goes in. And now we just get the lift up. And this lift just oscillates back and forth. Here, let me stop and recover the rocket fuel real quick. And then we can start moving again. Alright, we just keep on gaining height. And that should be good enough. We can swap back to Hoverpack now. And so now this goes up past this floor level. So it should be plenty of that. Alright, so next step is to get the plastic sorted up and onto this level. So this just goes out here. And we just place a bunch of those down. Then we connect them up in such a way that we can provide all the rubber that we need. Alright, just like that. So that's the plastic done, and now we need to get it sent down to the next level, which is just floor hole there, and connect that up. Then let's give ourselves a hole there so we don't have to go all the way around. And then this gets set up like that. And then it gets a storage container, which it can fill up. And there we go. That's plastic. Plastic, check. Rubber, check. We should be good to go now. Alright, so now I believe, unless I've messed something up, or gotten some numbers wrong or something, I believe we have all the resources present to start making this factory. So, we are going to start, let's see, we're going to start by just dealing with the water maybe. Let's see, did the water setup go all the way up to the train level? If so, that's good. Yes, so the water has head lift all the way up to that level in theory, which means that even if the head lift doesn't go quite all the way up to where the fluid buffer is, we should still be plenty on this level. So let's start by just doing all of the things that the water is for, so we can just stop worrying about that. So first up, I guess we can work from this way over. We've got quartz, which is going to be going into just a couple of refineries for pure quartz crystals. And that is the only thing that the quartz is being used for, and it's not that many. So we just get, actually, let's get a blueprint for this. So we have 2 inputs to 1 output, which it's a solid output though, so it's not that one. I think it's this one works for that situation. Yes, that is what this is for. So let's get those in. And how do we want these lined up? Maybe we do something like this, so that when we have a couple of them in a row, it doesn't expand over that way quite as much. So you go in, you get set to blueprint auto connect mode, and then snap in like that, and then you snap in like that. Okay, wait, no, this is no good because this is not balanced. This is manifolded. Gross. Alright, let's just do the 2-to-2 refinery. And that should just be fine. So you can go there, and we need, how many of these? 4.5 of them. I guess doing 8 won't break anything necessarily. those are in. And how much quartz is this? 237.032 divided by 8. So let's just go into here, scroll down to pure quartz crystals, and 237.032 divided by 8 is just slightly more than 50%. So we paste those settings into all of these. And then we get the splitters. So how much is this? So this is 38 raw quartz plus 38 raw quartz. Means that these belts here need to be Mark IIs and Mark IIs. So you're a Mark II and you're a Mark II. Alright. So then these ones are probably Mark IIIs, which would be up to 270 each, but it's only 304 each, so yeah, these need to be 150, which Mark IIIs does well. And then we just have a Mark IV belt going from here. So we just set that into there. Alright, next up is the power situation. We need to actually get power poles set up in this factory floor now that we have it. We can just connect you up to that train station. And so now that is all going, we just need to bring 100 and some water over here. So not even a full pipe. Should be quite easy. Just a bit of a journey, but some of these things intermediate are going to also want water. So we get that. You are going to... Actually, do we want you to go down a level and just go across the ceiling of the level below? Yeah, probably. Just because we might want to have buildings here. So this, we're just going to bring this along. And there we go. Okay, let's make sure to get the foundation all connected across. And this just goes somewhere here-ish. And then we need a floor hole that is connected into and goes across to there. Alright, so that is that. And this should be relatively little water. So we shouldn't have any trouble getting these all filled up. So that is that. We apparently need to fill this foundation out a little bit more. And just like that. Alright, so now the outputs, 237 quartz crystals, 29 per machine. So these just needs to be Mark III belts on the main line. So we just have to go across like that. And that should be good. And now we get a sink. Special, awesome sink. In you go. Add smart splitter. And that goes across and connects into that. Alright, so this is now going, and it looks like it's got all of its all the stuff it needs. The last couple are just filling up, but they should already be good enough to go. Okay. It feels like I missed a belt somewhere in here. Because these are very, very stop and start, although I guess that's just because they had buildup. Yeah, they just had buildup, so that's fine. Pure quartz crystal, check. So the next thing the water goes into is going to be copper ingots. So we need a significantly larger set of refineries for that. We're going to need 40 effective refineries. And will we overclock those? No, we shouldn't need to overclock things realistically. It should be fine as is. 40 isn't that many, honestly. Okay, so one of these two, I have no idea which, is our copper supply. So we need to get that set up, and we need it to go in a space which isn't going to cause problems. Now the aluminum stuff doesn't really use water, and I think this whole floor is just going to be like the water floor. So we can build our copper refineries in this area. And it shouldn't cause any problems. Although it might be marginally confusing, it shouldn't be a big obstacle. Unless fixite... No, there's no way the fixite trigons are going to be interacting with water at all. Those are just going directly into the final product. Okay, so we need to leave enough space here for the input manifold. So we just go like that. And then we just keep auto-connecting up. These come in batches of 4, and we need almost exactly 40. We technically need 38 point something. So that will be 10 clicks of this blueprint that we're doing, which is going to require a lot more space. Alright, so let's just get a couple more in. I've already lost track of how many we have, but we should figure it out. It's not that difficult to count to 10. So we'll just get a whole bunch of them in and then figure it out the exact numbers later. Okay, so let's get these connected up to a power pole, which we still need to do a bit more of. So that is 1, 2, 3. Don't do that. Where did that get placed? Yeah. You go away. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we just go like that. And so we have 7 of these in. If we just go 8, 9, and get the power across so that we can fly. And then one more. And 10. Alright, so those are all in. I think I just about ran out of something. Probably the copper sheets or something. So now that's all powered up. Now we just place these foundations back here to get this whole area filled up. Okay, and despite the massive amount of machines here, it's only 380 water and 570 copper. So both of those, relatively easy to do. So let's just get back this way to get the water hooked in. And let's see here. So this one was like 160 some. Actually, how many different water pipes do we have? We've got 6 water pipes. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things that water goes into, but one of those is more than 600. Alright, yeah, it should be... So we can just do this now, get that out of the way, and then each of the later ones just gets their own unique pipe. Alright, so that water just is going to go through there, and it's going to take a while to build across. Then we just need to get this in. So this is a 1 to 10 split for the copper. Oh, we have to actually get the settings and everything in. So you are doing pure copper ingots. And how much output is this total? It's split up into 3 things, so it's hard to tell. It's 239.092 for aluminum for all clad sheets, plus 693.059 for copper sheets, plus 496.02 for fused quick wire. So that's 1,428.171 divided by 40. 1428.171 divided by 40. That is indeed just about exactly correct. And we're going to have to output this into 2 belts because obviously max belt speed is 1200. Let's get the settings pasted across first, and then we can worry about that. So settings get pasted across, and already we're at the point where the water hasn't quite gotten down this way yet, but it should eventually. We might need to do the whole looping thing for this. I don't know. It isn't that much water throughput, but it is a very, very long manifold, so who really knows? Alright, so now let's just count again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we have 10 of those, which means we need to do another row of 1 to 2s and then a 1 to 5. So let's just start with... Actually, first let's verify how fast each of these individually has to be. 14.28 copper ore, which means 4 of these times 4 is 57. Yeah, so each of these is like almost exactly a Mark 1 belt, just barely off of that. So we can use Mark 1 belts for this. Just send you along like that. And another one like that. And we're just going to have 5 of these, and then a 1 to 5 splitter will finish us off. And we just have a blueprint for that, which we will simply place in. Alright, so there we go. That is in. And finally, we have one more. So you go out like that. Alright, next up, 1 to 5 splitter time. So we just get this in, set that to default build mode, and pop you like there-ish. The room in here is just a little bit cramped. So, these can actually be Mark II belts, right? So that barely fits into there. So we have 571.28 copper, which when divided by 5 would give us slightly less than 120. Yeah, so that's fine. So let's just take all of these super fast belts here out and replace them with these. Alright, now let's just merge these up into a nice convenient row. Like that. And then just bring them forwards a bit so that we can confirm that they do actually all line up. Yep, there we go. So now these rows just go forwards a bunch until they're all connected in. And this whole thing just barely fits, but it does fit. So that one loops into there. And we just keep going. Now we are past the aluminum stuff, so the space isn't really a concern anymore. Not that we need that much space at this point. So these just keep going forwards. And there we go. Now you can branch into that. And just a little bit more of this. There we go. And now one more going down all the way to the end. So this goes all the way down this way and into there. Alright, so that is now all set up, and all we need to do is hook the copper in. And the water is doing its thing, it looks like. Although I'm not sure how well. It seems to be taking its sweet time. Although it says flow rate of like 300 a minute, which should be plenty, hopefully. But yeah, so that should be just about finished up on the water side. So now we just run down this way and we can get the copper attached in. So now we get to ask the fun question, which one of these is copper? This one is. It's like 5% less convenient than if the other one were copper, but it's not a big deal. So that just comes out like that. And then just branches into there, and we're good. Alright, so that is now just going to be sending like 120 exactly down each of these because we've got plenty of copper input. Okay, so that is that. Now to work on the output side. So each of these is less than 1, so we don't need to worry about that. But the main line down the center is going to be like 1400 or whatever. So we are going to need to merge this up into, I guess, for now, just 2 equal batches of 20 machines would be enough. Alright, so we just have to go through, get all of this stuff built in and upgraded. And we're probably going to want to change the exact ratios of how we're splitting this copper output at some point. But for now, this is fine. Okay, so this just goes all the way down. And how much further? Okay, we're almost there. It's not a small amount of machines, that's for sure. It's also going to be quite a while before it gets all the way down to here. Alright, so if we're trying to split this into 2 batches of 20 machines, and we have 40, that means, what, 2, 4, 8, 12... No, that's definitely wrong. Okay, how is that calculating that? So each of these rows here is 4. So that's 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. So we cut them off at this point. Does that look right? Yeah, that looks right. Alright, so we've got that set up. Now we just take you out. So you go out like that, and just into a splitter for a sink. So there you go, and you get powered up. Like so. And then we do the same thing for the other side. So we go all the way down here. All the way down to here. And get a little bit more room in there. And then pop a sink in right at the end. For all of these to connect into. Which just can go across like that. Alright, so that is copper smelting setup. Okay, so then the next thing we need water for actually is the steamed copper sheets. So we might as well just work with those immediately. So we need... Alright, this is where it gets interesting. We need 693.059 copper ingots per minute. 693.059 per minute. And we're getting it in batches of 35.704. So, let's try that. 693.059 divided by 35.704 is... Wait, that's 704. It is 19.41 machines. It's like weirdly close to 20 machines exactly. And... okay, this isn't getting enough copper ore. Did I mess this up somehow? It's getting 14 point something. Okay, wait, is this supposed to be... oh, I see. That was a Mark 1 and it needs to be a Mark 2. So all the rest of these are good to go. It's just this first one which I messed up. So that should be fine. Alright, so now we can go back to staring at this for a little bit. We do have a little bit of leeway in how we divide this because the copper ore is a direct input. So it'll be oversaturated. So technically, we can set these to any number up to 15 and it'll work because of this being sort of speed balancing adjacent. Because this is 120, which means that's 60, that's 60, that's 30, that's 30, that's 15, that's 15. So we can do something like that in order to balance this out, just sort of little micro adjustments, because we have more copper inputs than we, strictly speaking, need for this. Although I actually don't know how much copper we have. How much copper do we have? This is a normal node, so it's 600, and we need 571. So yeah, that's, I mean, basically perfect. Basically perfect, no problems there. Alright, so... Right, so back to what I was doing then. If this is 19.411 machines, then if we divide this down to 19 machines by making them go a little bit faster, I don't think we can make that go fast enough though. Alright, how do we do this? How do we do this? So the amount of wiggle room we have, we can increase these by up to like a couple percents. Because if we go all the way up to max throughput, then that would be 15 to 36, right? Copper or pure copper recipe is 15 to 37.5. So if we were to do that, then 37.5 times 19 is 712.5, which means we could actually, that would actually work. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. We are going to make this a row of 19 machines instead of 20, and then set them down to their exact ratios. It's a bit sneaky, not something that I normally do, but it seems easier in this case. So we need to chop that last machine off the edge there. Did that not work? That did not work. So you actually loop back into the sink, and you just go forwards into you for now. Okay, so now we have 693.059 divided by 19 is 36.476. Yes, so 693.059 divided by 19. Just set those up a couple percents and paste you across. And that should get our perfect ratio. And the copper input surplus should cover for the fact that we're now producing slightly more in this batch. So let's get a sign on here. So this here is copper ingots, and it is 693.059. There we go. And then let's also get a throughput monitor on there so that we can see if that actually works. So right now it's showing a little bit higher than that. It's probably going to be quite a bit wobbly because of the weird ratio that this is not going to be able to ever figure out. Alright, so that is 120. That's a lot closer to the full 120 than it was previously. So now we need to go to the next batch, which, yeah, we need to just get all of these split up while we're thinking about it. So this is 496.02 divided by 35.704 is 13.89. So if we grab 14 machines here and underclock them ever so slightly, that should be fine. So we divide that by 14 is 35.43. 35.43, and we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Cut you off and branch you out to another sink, I guess. Alright, so that goes in. Smart splitter. And belts. And then we get that powered. Alright, so now here is sort of the moment of truth here. We've got these last couple. We need to make 239.092, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 239.092 divided by 7 is 34.156, which is entirely manageable. 34.156. Alright, so yeah, what we've done here is we basically set the first half-ish to be a little bit faster, and then the second half to all be a little bit slower, and then that balances out to the same amount overall, and we should have this all set up without breaking anything. So now let's get a throughput monitor and a sign, and the sign says copper and 239.092. Wait, is that? Yes, that is what I did. 34.156 is in all of those. Alright, we're all good there. And now we just need to get this middle one labeled, because I forgot, although let's copy those sign settings, because they're almost exactly what I need, except for the number on them. Alright, so then we get the display sign, paste that, and then this is 496.02, and then it gets a throughput monitor, and we're all good. So none of these take more than 15 per minute, so we're all set up for all of that to work properly. Alright, so that is that giant obstacle solved. And now we do our steamed copper sheets, which takes this one, which should be 700-ish. Yep, it's fluctuating somewhere in that region. Alright, so we just need another row of 30 more refineries. Fantastic. I do love placing refineries. Alright, so we need that to go somewhere around like that so that it has its foundations. And then we just have to sort of connect this back like so. Okay, now let's bring this forwards all the way down this way. And finally fill in this little gap, which I somehow missed earlier. There we go. Okay, so now we get our refineries in. And these are going to be rotated like that. And then just aligned somewhere in there. Doesn't have to be super picky. And we're going to see here. How does best build this in? Probably just... You can probably fit a row or two in this way. So we need to get up to 30, which divided by 4 is 32, which is 8 of these. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're falling out of the sky. Let's go back and bring power along. Alright, so let's grab that. And in you go. And place this across a couple of times. Sorry about that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those in so far. We need 3 more, which will be somewhere in this amount of space. Probably won't take up all of that space. Alright, so that is 6, 7, and 8. Alright, so those are all in now. We run back this way and start bringing the power across. So that is in, and that is in. Alright, next step, the settings. So this is not doing ionized fuel, this is doing steamed copper sheets. And we need... And how much is this? This is 1-to-1, right? And it's 693 of everything, so it's 693.059 divided by 32. There we go. Now we just paste those settings into every single machine. And then we can start getting them connected up. Which should be easier because we don't have to do a 1-to-5 balancer. We can just do a bunch of 1-to-2s because it's a multiple of 8. Alright, so this just goes across, and there we go. So now those are all set up. This connection is definitely not supposed to do that. Auto connect gone wrong. Okay, so now we need to get this all connected up And we have to sort of dodge that, so we're going to have it start over here. And this is slightly more than 20. So these rows of 4 will be slightly more than 80, which means it needs Mark IIs. So let's get those in. And another one there. There we go. Just 2 more of this row, and then a couple more rows like it. So that goes out there. And then we get this one, which... Okay, I haven't done this the right way where you collapse it in towards the center. Just sort of collapse this into the right. So let's try to make sure we don't do that again. So we grab this one, and let's see. These ones, individual machines, slightly more than 20, which means the batches of 4 are slightly more than 80, which means that this batch here is going to be slightly more than 160, which means Mark III belts. And there we go. And then we have to do the same for this one. Get these connected up. And all the way out into there. And now we are at the other end of things where we have almost 700 going in, which means that splitting that into 2s will be like 350 each, which is Mark IV belts. And that, was that completely straight? Yes, somehow. Alright, there we go. Now we just bring this Mark V belt back to supply all of this, all of the copper. So that goes around this way and out from there. Right any center overflow. And that apparently is still doing approximately correct on the throughput. So that's all good. Actually, though, I do want that to be a Mark V, because sometimes when you have fast belts feeding into overflow splitters on slower belts, sometimes like you get a big burst and then some goes through the wrong way. Now you never get a big burst. This can always fit around that corner. Okay, so next step is the water. And the water for this is going to be the hardest water of the entire factory, because it is the only part where a single line has more than 600, which is a tad annoying. So we just take 2 pipes out, and I think what we do is we split this in half, feed each of those halves from the center, and then there should be plenty of excess water to just brute force through any problems. So these pipes just go up there. This one's going to come around that way somewhere. Alright, so I believe that is just the center point in there, right? So it's 4, 8, 12, 16. So this is the center point here. So we chop that down, and we bring this pipe, if I can select it correctly, bring that pipe into there. Then this pipe goes all the way over to here, and it can also get input approximately central on its side. And I'm seeing green lights. Always a good sign. So then this gives us a whole bunch of copper sheets, which, I mean, we're going to have to split up into two confusing spots later, but that seems like a job for later. So for now, we're just going to merge all the copper sinks up and send them out. The only reason we did the copper ingots right away is because we were actively working on the next thing anyways, because we're trying to just get all the stuff dealing with water done before we do anything else, which, well, steamed copper sheets are one of the things that involves water, so we're doing those. Alright, so this belt just goes all the way through. And all the way through. Sure is a long belt. Fortunately, it is fast enough that it can all just merge up into one belt if we need it to. And there we go. So that is all set up, and now we go to special, awesome sink, smart splitter, and then that goes into the awesome sink. And where's the power pole? There it is. Now we are all good, dumping out the excess copper sheets, and the water seems to be working. It's just barely making it down this way, but it does look like it is accumulating a little bit. And that should go faster as these ones in here fill up more and stop taking disproportionate amounts of water. So that's steamed copper sheets, check. Our next water demand is pure iron, which is going to take 435 water. No big deal. Alright, so the iron, we have a row of 24 refineries for that, which annoyingly I should have put the iron there and the copper over here. It worked out a lot nicer, but much too late now. Okay, so now let's just not stack those blueprints one on top of the other. That would be very silly. Alright, so let's just get some space out this way. Something like that ought to do, at least for a start. And then we get this in, and it needs to be rotated like that, and then set to default mode, and just rotated correctly, and then we just align it up. And there we go. Now we can set these to blueprint auto connect mode. And that is 4, 8, 12, 16, and we just need 2 more of these to get up to the 24 total that we need. So that will be enough space. Alright, that's 20, and that is 24, and then let's just get this last little chunk of foundation in so that it's not levitating. And then let's get back into power range and connect all of these guys back up. So these all get connected across, and then they go back over this way and into this little guy. Alright, so that is that. Now, they need water. They need 435 of it. So we're just going to give them a fresh junction. Actually, we'll give them this one because it's closer. And we're just going to pop that into somewhere roughly centralized to help with the manifolding. There we go. So now we've got to do the balancing, which is pretty easy because it's just 24. So we need a 1 to 3 and a 1 to 2, and then we'll be all set up. So that goes out to there. Actually, how fast do these need to be? We need to get the recipes in first. So this is 481.5, which is a convenient number because we can actually balance to that, plus 933.329 is 1414.829 divided by 24. 4.829 divided by 24. I did not put the recipe in. 1414.829 divided by 24 is 58 point something, which works out. So that is slightly more than 31 iron input, and slightly less than 60 iron output per machine, which does work out relatively nicely for me in terms of having to upgrade the belts and such. We'll have to do a little bit of that, but nothing crazy. So we paste all of the settings all the way across, and there we go. So these are 31s, which means that these ones in here are going to be like 62, which is gonna kind of suck to upgrade, mostly because of those tiny little guys in there, which are so hard to reach. If I were just less space efficient on this, it would be a lot easier, but the space efficiency is also pretty important. Alright, then that one goes in, and we just keep on going across. There we go. So those are all set up, and now we just get in our splitters. So this is slightly more than 60, that's slightly more than 60, which means that this is slightly more than 120, which means it does have to be Mark III. So we get all those built up. That random pipe blocking line of sight is super annoying here. I wish I just delayed connecting that across for a short amount of time. It's fine though. Alright, so those all connect up, and now we just get this row in. So if this is going to be 120.9 or something, then the input should still fit within a 270 belt. Alright, so these just go along, and let's just confirm that is 761.8 divided by 3 is 253, which does indeed fit on a Mark III belt. Alright, so now we take our iron, we're going to dismantle you, bring you up over that a little bit. Of course, there's a random power pole right here. And then you can come down and onto the foundation where you just sort of wrap around like that. A little bit forwards and then in. Alright, so that is that. Iron all set up, and the water has had time to saturate preemptively. And we should be in the clear net now. So that is all going through. Now we need to set up the outputs, which we are going to have to split down the middle because of the speeds. So let's see actually where we want to split this, because it's 930 iron one way and 481 the other way. So like we have how many of these sets? We've got 6 of them, right? So if we just combine up these two, then that is 58.951 times 8 is 471.6. We are 10 iron short of that working, which means we need to just split this up into 2 and then just figure out the exact ratios later on when we're working on that portion of things. So we're going to leave this as a not my problem right now. We're just going to... I should have just split it evenly in half, I guess. But, yeah. We'll have to go back and do that. And let's see here. Where was the halfway mark here? We have this probably here, if I had to guess. There's 3 over there, 3 over there. Yeah, so this is the halfway mark. Chop that out. And then we take that conveyor out and sync it with a smart splitter. So that just goes across, and that should keep this portion running around the clock. And then we just have to get another smart splitter down here for this portion. And let's just push that far enough back that it won't cause any issues. And then we connect you across and get you powered. Alright, so that is the iron smelting done. So there is one last step that needs our water, and that is the caterium, which I believe we wound up importing, right? There's no caterium in this general area. Okay, there is, but I don't think we're using it for this. So, the caterium is right over this way. And it's just sitting there in a box, and it needs a couple of refineries, which it would be easier if we just connected it up to that pipe, which makes me want to shift around what pipes the copper is connected up to, because currently the copper smelting is branched off of this pipe, but that makes that a little bit dubious. So let's disconnect you, get this last one And how on earth? Alright, pipe spaghetti it is. Placing pipe supports on top of other pipes is certainly a thing you're allowed to do. So now that's connected up to there. Using our last fresh water pipe. And we have way more water input than we need. And doing it this way just prevents us from really having to think about it at all. So now we go back to this area over by the quartz. And then we have this pipe here, which is going to have plenty of spare water to do the caterium smelting. Okay, so let's fill in that area with foundations. And we need 8.2 refineries, which means we're going to use 12. And those just sort of go in, however, in this general vicinity. Push them back that way a little bit. Why not? Push them over this way to save some space. Not too far that we end up cramping those buildings. So that's 1. That's 2. That's 3. And then we get this whole area foundationed out, including back here, just because. All right, now we do the settings. So the caterium, we need 99.204 output. Caterium is weird how little, like how small the numbers are. Pure caterium. This is 99.204 divided by 12. That's in. Now we can just paste this across into all of these machines. There we go. Done. Now we get these power lines across and connect them into some other power line over there. So these are now all powered. Okay, next step is get the water. So actually, let's start from up here and just like pop floor hole in, pipeline down. And now we just have to go here, junction, into the floor hole, done. That's water sorted out. Once it figures out what it's doing and flows through, it'll take a little bit to get started, but there it goes. And that is certainly all the water that we need for this. And now, for this, all we need is a single 1-to-3 splitter, right? So the caterium input is 198, divided by 3 is 66, which means each of these belts here needs to be Mark IIs, but nothing past that does, because that's going to be 30 something. Alright, and then this is just a Mark III belt, which goes all the way back to the caterium. Alright, so that is in. The water is flowing through. Caterium is making its way into the system bit by bit. And now we have 99 caterium output in total, which means just Mark IIs. And just confirming that I haven't missed anything on that. Nope, it is nice and simple. Then we put our awesome sink in. smart splitter across, and powered. Alright, so that is all that. And the water is still making its way across, as is the Caterium, but it's just about there. So this should still be overfilling by quite a bit in terms of water, because we have plenty of that stuff. And then the Caterium should never be an issue either, because it's coming off of a train, so unless we have a Caterium shortage back at the train depot or whatever, which is certainly possible, but I hope that isn't the case. And if it is, we'll just have to go find more nodes. Even a single extra Caterium node would handle this entire factory, so that shouldn't be too hard. Alright, so that is that one filled up. And yeah, so this should be totally fine. Just run back over this way, confirm stuff is getting sunk properly. It is, very good. Okay, so that is all of the water usage in the entire factory. Now, the other fluid we have in here is the nitrogen gas, which I believe gets pretty late into the system because of just where it's going. Yeah, nitrogen gas goes directly into cooling devices, so not much we can do about that, except just keep that holding on for a bit. So nitrogen gas is waiting. Caterium has been done. Rubber is input a fair bit later. Yeah, so we need to make AI limiters before we can do anything with the rubber. Quartz is being used for step 1. Then we just run over here. The plastic. Where's the plastic? So the plastic is over there, and it is used with wire and some other stuff to make batteries. And it also gets used with quick wire for circuit boards and copper sheets for circuit boards. Alright, so we can technically start working with the plastic right now if we used our copper sheets. We're going to hold off on that for a little bit. So the next thing we want to just start dealing with is the aluminum. So we're making like 4 different things out of aluminum here. So let's start dealing with that now. So how have we dealt with the aluminum here? We have two mergers here, meaning 2 belts of 1200 each. So that's obviously not really what we want to be doing. So we need 1 thing of 2200, which is going to be like 2 full belts worth. We need another thing of 700, and then a couple random, like, a single Mark II belt would deal with all the rest of it. So how are we going to do that? And this is definitely not it. I mean, it's technically not that far. What I think we want to do is just invert this. So we have these 2 splitting off, and then these 3 getting the extras. Yeah, let's do that. And then we're going to send this down to the next floor, and it's going to go in mostly a bunch of constructors. Yeah, we might actually... do we want to grab some summer sloops and get a ton of value out of slooping the aluminum casing constructors? Because there's 2,200 aluminum ingots going into 24 5 effective constructors, which we could then get down to like 10 constructors and double it. So that would be 10 summer sloops, and we have 2 currently. Yeah, I think we'll be fine, probably. It's an option to sloop things if we wind up draining all of our aluminum supplies. But hopefully we don't do that. So you get a splitter. You get a splitter. Are these not aligned the same distance? Alright, so we need to do that, do that. And then you get a merger. And you get a merger. Alright, now all these belts get connected up. So that goes out like that. And you go out like that. Alright, so now we have, in theory, 3-ish belts of aluminum. So we take 2. So we need to just send those out in a direction where they're not going to be interrupted. So can we fit those in here next to the copper? We can, actually. That's pretty neat. Pretty much perfectly spaced. There's like a quarter of a belt of room in between them. Alright, so we have that, and that is all of our aluminum. So let's actually balance these, maybe. Yeah, maybe we balance these 3 against each other, which should be, I mean, it's going to be a bit of a nuisance to do a 3-to-3 balancer, but it shouldn't be that bad, right? So we go, I don't think I've ever done this before. I've done 2-to-2s plenty of times. So we need 3 of these, each to split into 3. And then they go forwards a bit, and they merge up into 3. So you go around like that, in like that, in like that. Then you go up and into there, up, and across a little bit and into there, and then into there. Then you go up and stay up and stay up a little more, and then into there. And then you go up and across a little bit and into there, and then into there. Alright, 3-to-3 splitter complete. So that, then just all of those go in, and this is, we could have done like a 5-to-5 splitter and made it perfect, but this is just much nicer in general. It's just easier to deal with. Like, as messy as this is, 5-to-5 is an absolute nightmare because you have to do so much extra work. Alright, so we have these. These are now being balanced, which means we can basically guarantee that any given one of them is going to be full, I think. So we will start with just making a big row. I should have used the square blueprint for this, but whatever. Alright, so we start with making a big row. And do I have just like a boring old constructor blueprint? Probably something like labeled screws, maybe? Yeah, this should be fine. We might have to do a lot of belt upgrading. Why is this 5? It's probably fine. They look balanced. Okay. So we need to get that power pole across, connect it up to something. Alright. Then we get another copy of this blueprint in, like that. Alright, so that then gets powered. And these need to now make casings. And we need a whole lot of casings. So you set to aluminum casings. And we need probably, I think we need you to be max overclocked and very, very close to max capacity. So this is 1422.198 plus 42.966 is 1465.164 divided by 10. 1465.164 divided by 10 is 244% overclocked. So that is fine. Now we just paste those settings across to all of these. And we ran out of power shards. Let's grab another stack or two and get those settings pasted back in. There we go. Alright. So, let's finish off this chunk of foundation like that. Alright, now for the speeds. Each one of these is receiving Mark III. Why are you like this? Why are you 2 shorter belts instead of just 1? That is mildly annoying, but whatever. Alright, so those Mark IIIs are in, and now, who knows how all this is supposed to work. And this might actually just straight up not. Let's see. So this can only output because this is the sloppy version. Yeah, this actually, we unfortunately can't use this blueprint because the version of the 1 to 5 that's present in it just sort of doesn't work for what we're doing here. So let's just dismantle, filter all of these guys, get them out of the way, and just find like iron wire. This is 4, so that will just work a little bit better, not have weird stuff with belt speeds, although it will be marginally less summer sloop efficient if we decide to go down that route, because we're going to be placing in 12 of these guys. And where's my power grid? There you are, all the way over there. Alright, so we ended up getting 8 of those in, meaning we need to find the blueprint again. Where are you? Iron wire blueprint. There it is. So that goes in there. We need a couple more rows of foundation. Okay, so now this is 1465.164 divided by 12. Oh, and we need to get aluminum casings. Max overclock. And it is 1465.164. 0.164 divided by 12. There we go. Now we just do our copy paste job once more. And there we go. Those are all set across. And these last ones... Oh, I see. That power connection didn't get made. There we go. Alright, so these are now 183. So they still need Mark III belts. Let's get all of those in. And there we go. Alright, so that is Mark III. Then this is going to be 360, which means it's going to be Mark IVs. There we go. And a little bit more into there, like that. Okay, so that is good. Now we just need this. So you are going to be dealing with 360 plus 360-ish. So Mark Vs should be fine here. There we go. And then... Wait, am I dumb? Yes, I am. Alright, so this doesn't merge down into one thing like this. It has to merge down into two separate things because it's 2100, almost 2200 inputs. Which means that we need to just fundamentally redo this. It's not a big deal. So we just have to take out this row, bring this down to rows of 2, and we need to get the 1 to 3 split phase in earlier so that the last phase can be a 1 to 2 split, which we just don't do and just feed things indirectly. So now we've got 6 of these, and this is going to be super weird. So this is still 360 going in there. So we have those 3, and we have 1, 2, 3 of those. Alright, now we have 2 inputs, and we just need to put a single one of these into each. So we grab that one, and we grab this one. You go into there, you go along this way, and into there. Alright, now this produces casings at 3 to 2. So it is still slightly more than a single Mark VI belt, and these need to be Mark IIIs on the output. So there we go. This all goes through there. And then these get to be Mark VI belts. And then I'm pretty sure splitting this 2 to 1. Well, let's see. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is the halfway mark. So we split you like that. Put some foundations in for a sink. And that sink is going to go back that way with a smart splitter pointing into it. And then that just gets connected across. And like that. Now we get this sink, which we just sort of want to have oriented the same way for when we eventually use them. We're going to be using both of these, and probably we're going to be fiddling with this in some way, shape, or form in terms of how they're split out the machines. All right, so that is that. Aluminum casings, check. And again, we have the option of summer slooping these if the demand gets too intense on our aluminum supply. I'm pretty sure we accounted for using like 3,000 aluminum in this process. I'm pretty sure we accounted for that, so it shouldn't break anything. Okay, so that's the main aluminum draw. There's a little bit left to go, so we need to take this input and split it into like 3-ish, one of which being much smaller than the others. So how is the spacing on that going to be working? We need to get literally one constructor of aluminum beams, like 3 constructors of aluminum rods, and then a bunch of constructors of all-clad sheets, which will also need copper ingots. So let's actually have those extend off this way. Yeah, I think that should be relatively elegant. If we have you go along like this. So you go along like this, and the all-clad sheets are in assemblers. Alright, so this should fit, right? Yes, it does. So those assemblers are going to be inputting here and then extending along that way a little bit. And we need how many? We need 24, which is going to be 8 placements of this blueprint here. Blueprint auto connect. So that's 2. That's 3. All right, let's get back to here. Find this. That goes across. And get power in. Alright, so we have 3 of these set up. And we need 8. So let's expand this foundation all the way over that way. And that'll at least get us close. So we got 3 of those in. Then we go 4, 5, 6. And now we need to do power connections back up. So that goes forwards all the way up to there. And we get 2 more of these. So that is number 7. That is number 8. Alright. So that is all those assemblers placed. Let's get these last couple powered up so I'm not on the brink of falling out of the sky. There we go. Now, all-clad aluminum sheets. We need 600... No, we need more than that, because these are going off into 2 locations. So we get 639.488 plus 77.788 is 717.276 divided by 24. Okay. Let's hold that while we find the recipe. Am I blind? There it is. 717.276 717.276 divided by 24. This should be very nearly 100%. 99.6%. There we go. Now we just paste that across all of our machines. And we just keep moving. And we just keep going through. Okay, so that is all set up. Now we need to get the aluminum and copper into this, but first let's actually just get the other couple of aluminum things in just across the road from here. So we need a constructor, literally one, and you are going to make aluminum beams. Why does Satisfactory Tools keep giving me these recipes instead of just making steel? Who knows? But we need 34.187 steel beams per minute, and that is apparently a convenient way of getting it. Then we need a batch of 6 constructors. So let's find this. And we can use 4 and just overclock them again. And this is going to be aluminum rods. Again, why not just use iron? Alright. So we can get those in, and this is 355.548 divided by 4. There we go. And we paste those across. Okay, now that power gets connected up to there and back down to there. Alright, now we just get both of these sunk, which spacing is actually might have been a little bit ambitious in here, but we should be able to make it work. If we just have you loop around into your sink like this, tad unconventional, but ultimately is about the same. So how much? This is a Mark IV belt's worth of rods. So that goes across to there and gets powered up somewhere. Then this one, we can just get you into there, and this is all just going to be dropping down to the next level. So that is Mark I belt going across, gets powered up. Alright, so now the aluminum goes into each of these locations off of this. So first we get this whole thing balanced across. And let's just add a little bit of extra foundation out here for the sake of building said balancer. And then we can try to remember how many of these there were. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Alright, so there are 8 of these, which means it's just a power of 2. And these just go in. How fast are they? 30 each. Which means that this does need to be a Mark II, because it's going to be 90-ish. So that is that. Then we have this one, which goes out to those ones. And we just keep on working here. We're going to push this in towards the center as usual, although actually pushing it in towards the right would probably be marginally easier, but it doesn't really matter. incredibly trivial difference at the end of the day. Alright, so now we've got these. We get the splitters in. Now these, if these were 90, these are going to be 180, which means Mark 3s. So that just goes across to there. And then this just goes across like that. And now we have, what, like 360-ish? Or, wait, what is my math doing? We have 717 going in. Right, so these were 180s. Now these are going to be 360-ish. And then our final input is 717, which means it can afford to be a Mark V belt. So this runs back here and into this sort of general area. Alright, now we just have this belt here, which is going to split a couple of ways. And one of those ways is up to there. And the other two are both Mark I belt numbers of aluminum. So that goes across to there. That goes into there. Is this really using, like, almost nothing? Yeah, it is. Alright, so that is that aluminum. Now we have used all of our aluminum and sent it into... Okay, I was going to say we sent it into sinks. This is very much not been synced yet, so we need to get the copper up to here. And that's what one of these guys is for. Okay, let's start with that. Goes out to a convenient spot. And wait, no, that's dumb. That's the output side, not the input side. So we need to get the copper out to this way. So let's start by merging it all up as usual. Get those 1 to 8s in. Alright, so that goes all the way out to there. Should be enough space. Now the copper input on this is dramatically lower. So this whole thing is less than 30. Which means Mark 1s all around. And again, we want to crunch this in towards the center, so we have to do less moving about later. There we go. Now those go across. And we get another one of these in like that. Alright, so these are less than 30, which means this next row is less than 60, so we can continue using Mark I belts for another row, which feels weird. Doesn't feel right to be doing that, but whatever. That belt didn't go out quite straight. Oh well. Alright, so this one will go out straight, so it's slightly out like that. I don't really care to fix that problem. So that is 60, 120, 180, 240. And the total amount is 239, so the math checks out. And now these can each actually be Mark II belts, almost exactly. It's kind of crazy how close this comes to just being perfectly speed balanceable, and yet it is definitely not perfectly speed balanceable. Alright, then that is Mark III belt, which feeds that. And now we bring this down, and it is just there. Alright, so then that goes down, and we're going to bring this belt along on a logistics floor type of thing. Probably just a super narrow one, but we have to get the copper from like under these refineries and across all this mess, which is kind of impractical. Alright, which one of these guys is it? You are 497, which is what you should be. Then we come all the way down to here, and you are 237, and yeah, 239. It's oscillating wildly as one does. So let's just pop you down into a floor hole. And again, we're going to make sure that this is limited down to that. Right any center overflow. So because that is limited down to a Mark III, it won't overflow any more than it needs to. It won't get caught in being extra bursty and doing weird stuff like that. Alright, so now we're under this. We need to make this logistics floor, which goes like that. And then we do this. So this has a bit of a journey ahead of it. So it's got to go all the way down here and then all the way out to the east. Of course, that's too long. There we go. That's a start. Alright, let's just drag the foundation across first. I'm pretty sure I can see that floor hole all the way out there is our destination. And we'll be able to pop up. And yeah, that looks about right. That looks about where we're going. Alright, I temporarily lost track of it, but there it is. I found it again. So this just keeps on coming over this way. And then we rotate and go back under to here. Alright, so now we have all of those in. We can then just drag the conveyor belts along this path and keep it nice and straight. Why not? I'll help it look marginally better on the corners, and then back to default mode for the long straightaways so that it doesn't get crooked. And we just drag this along. Alright, there we go. There we go, around that corner, and now we're basically in the home stretch. Connect that across, and we're good. Alright, so that is copper into that. And it is just going to move along. So now we have our beams and rods done as well. Okay. So that is going. And it'll take a little bit for the Mark III belts to get all the way across. But it's fine. Alright, that is aluminum done. Is there any other super basic stuff that needs to be done on this? Not that I am seeing. Yeah, most of the stuff that we haven't used yet, we haven't used because it's relatively late in the production chain. Alright, so let's just give a quick look around at all this stuff to see if it's working. Okay, this is definitely not working. What's wrong? You're showing 96. Oh, I see. I didn't give you enough output. These are 88 per minute, meaning they need to be Mark II belts. So those are Mark II belts. The actual output itself is Mark IV, which is good enough for 355. So that is all cleared. These ones, the copper hasn't shown up yet. I didn't actually no, I didn't accidentally slide anything. For a weird moment it seemed like I might have somehow done that, but I didn't. Alright, so this copper is going smoothly. All of this copper sheets seem to be working. And the Caterium is going along, as is the quartz. Alright, I think that is step 1 finished. Alright, so all the basic production line is good, and the copper is starting to show up over here. Oh, I never did these. So these, all-clad aluminum sheets, there are 30 out of the machines, and then this row needs to be a Mark V, which needs to just go through like that. We're getting 600 and some of these guys out. So we need that to become a Mark V belt in order to accommodate all of that. So we just run along upgrading these belts. And there we go. We're now at the end of that, meaning it is time for a sink. And that should be enough space. Might be a little bit close, but yeah, that's plenty of space. So then we just send that across into the sink and power. Alright, all clad sheets, check. So now we should have everything going for step 1. So now we need to start working on step 2, basically, which, let's see here, if we do a whole bunch of, it's all kind of a mess because of the weird, convoluted way we've done this, but it should work itself out. These guys are buffering, not for any particular reason, just because there is some backlog, I assume. With almost 2,000 printable coupons, that's pretty neat. Alright. Let's just move on, then pick something sort of random to do next. So we can turn our steel beams into approximately 1 gorillion screws, and then use those screws combined with these iron rods to make rotors. So that is something which we can do sort of confined over to this side of things. And I think we want to go down a level for this anyways. Yeah, so let's take these down a level. Like that. Right, any center overflow. Alright, so now we go down here, and we need a wall, and that wall is going to go down a full level. And then we can start building the foundation down there. Alright, so this goes like that, and we just sort of spam a couple of these in just to get a start. Alright, that should be good for now. We just expand on that as we go. So this comes down to there, and we have a row of constructors which we will use to make... Where's our constructor thing? So we have this, set you to default mode, plop you down just sort of somewhere like there, because why not? And then those screws go into that. This power gets connected up. How on earth do we move between floors here? There we go. The power goes up. Now we have a power line down here. And these are all going to be set to steel screws. There we go. Wait, I need to actually get the correct settings first. So we probably going to need some power shards in here, and we need this to be 1777.74 divided by 4. There we go. We don't need all of those power shards, just need that many. And boy, this is a hilariously small amount of steel beams for the amount of screws it produces. Alright, so then these need Mark IV outputs from the machines. And we then need to split this up into 2 groups in order to sync them all properly. The power of steel screw recipe. Alright, so then we get our awesome sinks in there and there. And these are going to be less useful than normal because we're going to be using them like immediately, but it's always just good to have the awesome sinks at every step just in case. So those then get powered up, and we have that. Now, what is your problem? You can't get all your stuff out. That should be fixed by this setup. So, now we have a bajillion D screws. Next up, we have to get the rods down to here. So that is this one here. And you are a Mark IV belt, because there's 350 some of you. Right, any center overflow. Okay, and then we are going to put those things together to make some rotors, which is an assembler recipe. So let's expand some more space out this way. Alright, then we get a 3 assembler double floor. And we start by sort of placing you down somewhere. Let's say somewhere like that for now. How many of these are we going to need? 18 assemblers, which is 6 clicks of this. Blueprint auto connect mode. Flip you around so that you actually auto connect. There we go. And then we just grab the power lines across. And power all of those up. So this is half of what we need. We could overclock and do it now, but I think having more machines might make it just easier for the spacing variety when we have to put in almost 1,800 screws into this thing. Alright, so that expands out that way. And then, that's the wrong one. Our assemblers, we get another 3 of those. And another 3 of those. And I believe we have one more left, which goes there. Alright, now we slide jump back over this way and get these all connected up. Alright, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows of assemblers. Very good. Now to get the things pasted, these are going to be rotors. And we need 71.11 divided by 18. Oh, hey, look, it's already the recipe. Look at that. 71.11 divided by 18 is 3.95. So now we just paste this all the way across. And we just keep pasting across until we get there. So this just goes and we're good. Alright, now, how many of these are there? There are 6 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, I think for the screws we need to do the 1 to 3 splitter rows first. Alright. Then how many screws is this per machine actually? 98 per machine. Yikes. Wait, top or bottom? At the bottom rows, is this the one where, yes, this is the one where the bottom rows come pre-upgraded. And that is also true of all that stuff. Alright, so we are, in that case, going to unupgrade that. And the rods will be the top row, screws will be the bottom row. So we drop down to the bottom row, and the screws need the 1 to 3 splitter everywhere here. And if these are like almost 100 screws each, that means that this is 300 screws, which is Mark 4, Mark 4, and Mark 4. Then we do the same thing down this way with a Mark 4 belt in each of these spots. Alright, so that is that. Now, if we just take these screws here, each of these is half of the screws, those each take half of the screws, so we should be good to go here. Just gotta get these around the sinks and then bring them over this way. Alright, where are these lining up? Right back to there. And then that goes in. This comes along a little bit more. And then snaps into there. Now we can set these smart splitters back here to be correct, and you are left any center overflow. You are right any center overflow. And that is screws check. Next up, rods. So the rods don't need to get all the way down to the bottom floor. They just need to get down to like here-ish. And so those come down to that way. And then move forwards a bit. And then we need to get this all set up for them. So we start adding an extra row of foundation in. We typically wind up needing that for the balancers. Okay, and then no real reason to do it a different way, so we can get that in. Now these are slightly less than 20 rods, which means that each of these is going to be slightly less than 60, which works out quite nicely. There we go. And then we get these ones in, and across they go. Now this one goes in, and it is going to be doing slightly less than 180 each. So that will be Mark 3 belts across. And now we have this, which just has to come around this way and into there. All right. So that should make us our rotors. And let's see, it's going to make us 71 rotors in total, which seems like this is able to handle. So let's get a sink in, which looks like we're going to wrap back this way. And just pop that in there. And then this whole thing just needs to be Mark 2s. You get a smart splitter, and you go into there. Alright. Power the sink up. And we should be good to go. We're seeing rotors come through now. Alright, now the rotors are going to chill for a moment because the stators are somewhere else entirely and require a couple of steps off of the iron. And I'm not really in that much of a rush to go down like individual, super deep down individual trees right now. So instead, let's make heat sinks next with the all-clad sheets and the steamed copper sheets. So pop up to this level. This ought to be our all-clad sheet supply, which, yeah, so we're going to have to bring that down to this general area here and just make the heat sinks here, I guess. Alright, so that pops into there, and okay, the all-clad sheets get split. So we're going to need to do a splitting thing, but it should be possible, I think. It should be possible. If it isn't possible, then I'll just be kind of sad, but I think it's doable, and we're going to try. So this goes down a level, and then into floor hole right there. So it goes down through that little segment. And then it comes out to this area where we will add some of that in just so that this has something to land on. Alright. So we need to get the all-clad sheets 77.788. That's a slightly more annoying number than 77.777, which is what I thought it was at first glance. Let's see, so it's like this. If we divide that by 7, it's almost 11.1. Divide that by 9. Okay, is this cleanly divisible by anything? It's kind of close in a couple of spots, but not really. Alright. Do we need to break out the old 1,000 to 1 balancers to force like individual decimal points? So we can get this, right? That's relatively straightforward because that is divided by 11. I could have sworn that was like something in ninths. Oh, is it like... It's some even ratio. I know it is, right? I mean, it's sevenths, but like... Oh, it's 7/9, right? That's what it is. So it's 7/9, which is very much doable. And then we are left with 0.011. All right, chat. 0.011. Are we really gonna do this? Are we really gonna do the old 1,000 to 1 balancer? Okay. So, the 1,000 to 1 balancer. Okay, we just need to do 3 consecutive 1 to 10 balancers and then take specific chunks off of it. So, okay, we're gonna need more space. This is like comedic at this point. I mean, the good news is, once we're at the point where I'm willing to do this, like, I can get every ratio exactly, which is cool. Alright, so, step 1 is we're going to want a merger, right? This is going to be... I just processed the fact that we are going to be merging down, like... So we have to, like, start with... We have to start with some recognizable number. Actually, if is this multiplied by anything, like 120 is 1.32. Almost helpful, but not. 60 is 0.66. All right. No, but that doesn't... because that's not actually 2/3. So that's not actually 2/3, which makes that deceptively useless. So 120 is 1.32. Alright. If we get 132, divide it by 100, and then divide it by 120, I guess that is an option. Let's just keep going up for other major milestones. 270, 297, that's not terrible, but also not great. What about 780? No, it's nothing with 780. Assume it's nothing with 480 either. And okay. This is absolute lunacy. You should never do this. But I think we're gonna do it. So step 1, force 132. Relatively straightforward. So we need to get 120 plus 12. So 120 is easy. That is just a smart splitter with 120 off of it. Then 12. We actually... Okay, let's have the 120 be there. 12 be there. So 12 is easiest as just 60 divided by 5, right? And actually, is this going to be easier to just get 66? Then divide that by 60? Yeah, that's probably actually easier. Although, how low can we go before we get to like a number which is insane? So if we get 33... No, I feel like 66 is probably the easiest, right? Actually, does it make any difference? I feel like 60 and 120 are exactly as difficult. So let's just do the 120 because the numbers are slightly more convenient, I think, maybe. So we get a 1 to 5 balancer. Don't do autoconnect mode for this, just do normal stuff. So you are a Mark 1 belt going out that way. So that is 60. Then most of these, so this entire branch merges back, as does one of the outputs from the other branch. So we just get another merger in there. Alright, let's make this all be slow Mark 1 speed so that we can do that. All of these belts are Mark 1s here because there's no need to have them be any faster. And I don't know. I have a superstition that having belts that are too fast causes problems. Alright, so we have 60 going in. We split it into 5. 4 of those fifths go back, merge into there, which will priority input that. Not that it's a huge difference maker. So, this is 12. Then this actually doesn't even need to be a smart splitter. It's just too simple for that. So then we get our merger. Alright. So we have a belt of 132. Organization, label sign. Label sign goes in. This is, what is this? All clad sheets. All clad sheets. 132, right? So we've got that in. And the total number of all clad sheets going through here is enough that filling that won't be an issue. Yeah, it wouldn't matter anyway because we're going to be limiting it dramatically later anyways. Alright, so we have our 132 on that belt. Now, all we need to do is divide this by 100 to get 1.32. So, to divide this by 100, we have our belt of 132, then we get a priority merger with priority to the outsides. And wait, is that right? No, that's wrong, actually. So that needs to actively be 132 at any given time. It needs to loop its excess back over this way. So that's fine. Alright, so now we get another 1 to 5 balancer. And we're basically doing the same sort of thing here. You go in there. I don't care about limiting the throughput anymore. I could lower these to whatever, but they can stay as Mark 6. That should be fine. Alright, so now this entire batch and one of these And this one is the one we're grabbing again. So you do that. You merge up back to there. I will, I guess, downgrade these outputs just for consistency. Alright, so then those two merge up. This entire batch doesn't need to exist because you are just going to be merging right back up again. And so that would look something like that. And we do need to make sure that this is fast enough. So if we're going 10% out of this, we're doing 132 divided by 10 is 13.2. No, yeah, 13. So we have 13.2 out here. 132 minus 13.2 is just under 120. So we have you need that to merge down into there. And I don't know, that probably doesn't need to be a Mark II belt, but we will make it that way just in case. This one might need to be a Mark II belt, so we'll keep it that way. Alright, then this is all merged up. We need you to come back to the very beginning. So you go in like that. We're going to add an extra merger on there because it might be needed in the future. Who knows? For the next row. So this is 13.2. So this is 132. 10% of which is going forwards to there. The rest of which is just getting obliterated. Then we have to do this exact setup a second time to divide by 10 again. Okay, this sure is a thing. So then you go into there, and now this, we have to do the same process again. Let's get the space in for it, which apparently it isn't lined up properly, so we'll snap that into there. Okay, so then this wasn't in the right hotbar. This splits, this merges. We get one of those out, and then this just loops back with all the rest of them. Okay, then we get that. All of these guys connect up and go into there. Alright. So actually this probably needs to be Mark III because slightly more than... Yeah, because we're only taking 1.32 out. We're sending 132 in, which means 131-ish is going to be coming back. Alright, this is 1.32 back here. Oh, it gets so much sillier. Alright, so now we have 1.32. Divide that by 120. How do we do that? How do we divide this by 120? We need to... Let me think. Another I should just blueprint this, honestly. Let's just make a blueprint of this whole 1 to 10 throttler thing. So let's see here. We need, first of all, some space out here. Alright, that should be enough space to get a blueprint machine in. There should be comfortably enough space. Alright, so we've got that. We start with a 1 to 5 balancer. Just a nice innocent 1 to 5 balancer. Perfectly normal construction. Okay. Then we need to take this row out because it's not needed. And just get all of it out, including the conveyor poles. Okay, then we get a merger on that side, and you take that, and we don't have power. Where's the nearest power pole? It's all the way up here. No wonder. No wonder we are having power troubles. Alright, that goes across like that. Should keep us covered. Alright. So, then this splits out like that. Actually, is there a better way for me to do that? Yeah, there totally is. Okay, so if I just have you split out there, and then you can merge in like that. Alright, so then that is our output. And this is our return. And this does a 1 to 10. And let's get signs just so that we don't get confused. So this is input. Oh, I was in the icon selection. Not input. Input. Then this gets an icon for return to merger. And then this gets an icon for 1/10 output. Alright. That is crazy. So this is a 1 to 10, 10 to 1 belt slower. Save blueprint, clear designer. Alright, we have that. Now we just need to figure out what we're doing here. So, okay. So we started with this. And what was I doing? Right. This is 132. So then we divide it by 10 to get 13.2. Divide it by 10 again to get 1.32. Now we need to divide it by 120. So our next step is actually to divide it by 12, I think, which is relatively simple, fortunately. So we just go splitter, and then two of those merge back up. This can all be in Mark 1 because I know that that's fine. So two of those merge back up, and one of them goes forward. So this is 1 to 3. Then we split U again, and That's 1 to 6. Split you again. That's 1 to 12. So now we just need those extras to merge back up over this way and into there, and then for this to go forwards. Alright, so we have 1.32 in there. 2/3 of it goes that way. Half of the remaining goes that way. Half of the remaining goes that way. So 1/3 times 1/2 times 1/2, that's 1/12. So 1.32 divided by 12 is 0.11. Then we use our fancy new blueprint, which is absolutely insane that this is something which is worth blueprinting at this point, but whatever. So then this loops into that. Alright, now all of our mergers just have to merge up. So that merges up. That goes back in. This goes out. I don't know why I would do that. It's pointless, but whatever. Then that goes into there. And we have our 0.011 out here. Alright, now we just need to combine that because, yes, this is not all that we need to do. And we could stack this. Like, we could make this just like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mini layers and have it all in one area. And in the future, that's what we'll do. For now, we just have this laid out like this. Okay, so now we have that. The next step is to get the 100 times 7/9, and then we add that on and we will be good. So we just need to get to 100, which means taking 120 and splitting 1/6 of it off. So what? This is our input for that. So this is going to be like split like that-ish. And you will be right any left overflow and then all of this goes out. So now we have that space. That should be plenty. So we start with a priority merger as usual. And this is going to be getting, what, at most 120 in, which is fine. This priority merger here needs this to be priority. So there we go. That is that. Now we have this, which we just need to, step 1, take 20 off of this. 20 is 1/6. So we get a splitter. So the splitter takes it into thirds. 2 of those thirds merge back up. The other one splits into 2 again. And one of those 2 goes back in. So so we have 120 here. Did I forget to place that belt? I did. 120 here. Goes to 40, 40, 40. Then 20, 20. This is 100. I feel like I've done that in much more complicated and stupid ways before, but this is actually very easy. So that's 100. Now we just split it into 9 and take 7 of them, which translation means take it into 9, remove 2 of them, which will be easier. So those 2 are going forwards. Then we need another splitter here, which we do need to move a little awkwardly out of the way. And then that just merges up 2 into that, and the last one back to here, which that is set as priority. So we have, this is 100. So we split you into thirds. So then we have 2 thirds. This is 1/3. You need to wrap around there. So then that's a 9th. Oh wait, no, we're only taking 1/9 out here. So we need this to be a merger that this goes into. And then that wraps back there. So we have 120. And then that gets pared down to 100 here. And then that gets pared down. So we remove 2/9, and we have our 77 point whatever here. All right, now, final step. Add the ridiculous little .011 belt on. So once every 100 years or so, something will go on this belt, come across, and then pop into there. And then that goes forwards. And then this we can label as 77.788. No, 77.788. Why can I just not type the number 7? And that is all clad sheets. Okay, now we just have to connect the all clad sheet supply in like that, and nothing is happening. Why is nothing happening? Oh, did I not connect this down? No, these have all broken because of lack of aluminum. All right, well, that's going to be fun. Can't wait to deal with that. So yeah, I guess next step will be getting the aluminum fixed back up. So it is currently 4:53, which is about when I normally wrap up my stream. So I think we're going to end it here. Then next time around we can go back, figure out what's wrong with our poor aluminum supplies, and hopefully it's nothing too serious. Hopefully it's just an easy fix, and that'll be that. But yeah, thanks ever for hanging out. I will be doing Factorio tomorrow, where we are working on Aquilo, which is kind of rough. I haven't quite figured out how to do the heating there yet, but I feel like it's the sort of thing where once you figure it out and you like have a blueprint for doing anything on the planet, then it just sort of starts working. So hopefully we'll figure that out next time, and then we'll be back in Satisfactory on Thursday building this neural quantum processors factory. We're making progress. I wouldn't say fantastic progress. We've still got a long ways to go, but we are working along. If we don't just get stuck in a time loop fixing the aluminum supply over and over again, which it seems like we are. But that aside, thanks for hanging out. I will see you guys next time. Make sure to follow if you haven't already. I stream every weekday from 2 to 5 Eastern Time, playing various factory building games. So if you're interested in any of that, make sure to give me a follow so that you know when I'm live, and stop by in the future. So thanks for hanging out, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.